This conference will now be recorded.
I hope everybody can see my screen as well. Yeah. So, performance perspective, right? So, what is this performance perspective? We all know that performance testing is all about determining the performance of an application. We are going to check on the response time, how the application behaves, what is the server health under various load conditions, and there is going to be root cause analysis and so on and so forth. Okay. uh, with my industry experience, what I have noticed is there is a certain perspective is missing, and I'd like to share it with everybody, right? So yes, so let's get started. So what is this perspective, right? So we are going to understand the purpose from the performance context, right? And there are some entities that are vital for performance. Yeah. And we are going to interpret these entities in a simplified terminology. Excuse me. So what are the things that are we are going to discuss in this session is, at one part is, we are going to discuss on the web elements, the various types of resources that are involved that makes up the web page. Yeah. And we're going to look at the traditional versus a manual script creation after once we gone through the web elements part. And one important part, right, that is this Google Chrome developer tool, which we can take advantage of from the performance standpoint. And finally, we are going to also understand about the importance of the Ajax calls. Yes.
Hi, sorry Naveen, we cannot see your screen. Are you sharing?
Yes, I am sharing my screen. Okay, let
No.
me
Yeah, we cannot
check
see
once
anything.
again. Okay, sorry. How about now?
Yes, now we can see the screen.
Very sorry about that. Yes, fine, sure. So let me walk you guys through once again. From the performance standpoint, we are going to understand about the purpose from the performance context, and there are some entities that are vital for performance, and we are also going to interpret these entities in a simplified terminology. Yeah. And the topics that are going to we are going to discuss is, we are going to understand the web elements, a traditional versus a manual script creation, and Google Chrome developer tool, how we can take advantage of these tools. And finally, we are also going to discuss about the importance of Ajax calls, which is often missed uh, by the performance testers, right? Yeah. So what are these web elements, right? So when we try to load a web page, right, there are going to be a lot of elements that are associated with when it loads. There is going to be HTML documents. There are images. There are media content, etc. So we'll look at it. So these web elements or web resources are generally divided into two groups. Okay, one is the HTML resources, and another one is the non-HTML resources. Yes, and so HTML document is associated with the HTML resources. This, which is also called as a main request or the primary request for any web page that we are going to load. And there are other elements like images, which is of PNG, JPEG, WebP, ICOs for icons, etc. And there are scripts, JavaScript, VB scripts, etc. There are many other resources as well, like XHR, SVG, CSS, media fonts, XML, etc. Right. We are going to look at all of these aspects from the hands-on perspective by using the Google Chrome. And finally, we are also going to look at this Ajax or XHR calls. So XHR stands for XML HTTP request. Okay, so what is this XHR calls? It is a form of an API call which is heavily used in a web services. Yeah, and also called as an Ajax calls. Yes, the purpose is to modify or update a specific part of a web page, right? So after a web page gets loaded, these are heavily used, and these calls are more and more predominant in nowadays in any website development. Without these calls, it is hard to find a web page with yeah, the web development is evolving into this, right, where the more and more dynamism is implemented in the web page. And so as the evolution happens, right, so more and more Ajax calls are going to be implemented, or more and more web services are going to be predominant. So let's get started. So I'm going to open up the Google Chrome uh, developer tool. Okay, to open up, can use this, click on these three dots and go to more tools and click on developer tool, or can use this shortcut Control Shift I. Okay, so let me load up a web page. So I'm going to load Wikipedia. So after this page gets loaded, right, so these are the a variety of elements or resources that gets loaded to make up this page completely. Okay, so we'll start one by one, or maybe we can start with a simpler web page. It's google.com. I'll just open up. Okay, so I'm refreshing the same. Okay, so so the first request, right, this is from the main request or a primary request. And this is when it says like document, this is a HTML document. And this is the first request, and whatever that gets followed are the series of subsequent requests which makes up the whole page. Like, so there is a so there is uh, this media content, and there are these links, and there is this many links, and a lot of icons associated with it. With that, there is a search bar, there is a microphone, search by voice, there are these two main buttons, there are many other links, which is like variety of languages, and there is a sign in button. So all of these elements has to get loaded, and there is also this privacy settings, and there is this footer part of this specific page, right? So everything gets loaded, and these are the variety of elements that are involved to make this page to load. Okay, so if we look at it, right, so this is the main request, that is the HTML document, and followed by there are many scripts, which is like JS, JavaScript calls, and there is a font. This is another non HTML, all of this. So anything that is apart from the main request or the primary request, all of them are considered as a, a non HTML resources. Okay, and we also see some of the XHR calls. There is a text HTML, which is again another document type. XMLs, there is PNG, icons, so another document, etc. Yes. Okay. So let's look at this page. There is a Wikipedia. So here also we are seeing the main request, main page, and there are many varied different types of. So we don't see a style sheet here. Did we see? Okay, there is a style sheet here. Yes. So there is this here. There is a style sheet, scripts, WebP is again another type of image. There is PNG, SVG. So these are the different. So we can see, right. So there is a lot of um, series of XHR calls or web service calls or API calls, right? Yes. So now let's look at an interesting example for how what are these XHR calls and how we can use it, right? So there is a website called Numbers API. Okay. So this is a simple API website. What it does is it gives an interesting fact about numbers. There are some of the samples that they have provided here. So it says like 5 is the number of platonic solids, and there is another number which it provides another interesting fact about it, and there is a date which gives some information about the date. So today is July 25. So it says like you know a fact about today's date, right? It says like so the world's first test tube baby is born, which is today. And there is also a random, there are like four parts from this, and there is a try it out option is also given here. Okay. So if I want to, so this just generates a random year, and it gives a random fact about that particular year. So for example, if I click on this button, right? So what it says, like a random year, it says like 40 BC and some information about it. Is the year that Jiu PN dictionary, something that they have just given. So if I want to once again uh, you know let's say like if I click once again, so again this has given another information about it. And so if we notice, right, what is happening, only this part of this web page is getting updated, whereas there is nothing is happening from the web page, as it doesn't load, the images doesn't get loaded, whatever that is happening around, nothing gets loaded, only this part of this page is getting loaded. And this is what we call it as an ajax calls, right? So if I click on the date again, what we see is only this area is gets loaded, right? Now let's also look from the what is happening in the backend. Okay. So just for to see how what is happening in the backend, I'm just going to refresh it. So this is what we see in the Chrome dev tool. So what we have is the main document, and followed by a series of requests, and there is this number 42, which is right here. So if I just click on this, right, so what we see here is there is a header, there is preview, response, initiator, and timing. Okay, let's go one by one. So let me further expand this. Okay. So from here, what we see is the request URL and the method that is involved, HTTP status code. This code just gives us whether is it success, redirection, client side or server side errors, majorly, and the remote address or the actual address of this specific application. And followed by what we are seeing is the response headers. these are the some of the header attributes that we have got as a part of the response. And here what we see is the request headers, which is sent to the server, right? Now let's say I'm clearing this part. So I have cleared it, and if I click on year, right? So what is happening here is only this year as an HHR call or an API call is getting triggered. Nothing else gets loaded from the in the backend. So the total bytes that gets transferred is just 589 bytes, right? So this is also another technique, right, to keep the website faster, to have a very good user experience from the customer experience standpoint, right? For every time, it doesn't require the entire web page to get loaded, and the user does not need to spend neither the time or the data to get everything gets loaded, right? And at the same time, this also gives us uh, the 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 expected results. And if we just click on it, and if we go to the response, this is the entire response that we have got. What we see here is the same thing, right? The 78 is the year, uh, etc., and governor of something like that, right? Now let's also look from the Google, right, what is happening. So if I so these are the things completely got loaded. I'll clear it. uh, uh, so if I just simply click on it, right, so what happens, already there are some things as happening, and something is happening in the back end. And if I want to look at the weather, right, so let's say I'm just giving W. So as soon as I enter the keyword W, there is an XHR call or there is an API call. And this also helps, like so which means like there is a request sent to the server, and we have already got the response, and this is the part of the response. And for every keystroke, right, there is going to be a call that is sent to the server. You can see, right, it is in this search queue equal to, that is the query equal to. So if I just go on typing it, for every keystroke, there is going to be a request sent to the server, and a corresponding response we will also receive it. If we just click on it, you can see this is the response that we got, which is with a lot of codes. Yes, and we can also see the same the request URL, the headers, the series of resp- response headers and request headers. Okay, and these are the query string parameters, which is supposed to be a part of the body. Okay, now let's try the same thing with NeoLoad. Okay, let's start with the traditional format, where we can record the same thing. That is, we are going to use this numbers API application, and so NeoLoad has started. So I'll just create a new um, file, new project. So let's say I'll name it as Jax1. Click on finish. Yes. So I'm going to use the traditional method. That is, we are going to use the normal recording format, and I'll use the Microsoft Edge. So to record, right, you can just simply click on this button, start recording. This will bring up the start recording wizard. So here we are going to use the web, and these are the browsers that are already available in my system, right? So I've just enabled these things, delete cookies and clear cache, and I'll click on, so let's say numbers API, and I'll click on OK. So what we see here is the recording bar, and see, these are the like pause, stop. These are the containers which this record has to get into, and this is the transaction names goes into here, transaction, and this is the rendezvous point. And so let's say I'm going to type launch, and I'll give this numbers API, and the web page has loaded. Now for each and every a random part, I'm going to add a transaction. So I'll start with trivia. I click on this. I don't think it loaded. Let's click on year. This has loaded. Date. Not sure if it is loading. Okay, and finally math. Okay, let's assume that these has loaded, and I'll just go on to stop the recording. So this has finalized the. So this is the post recording wizard, which gives a what all the hosts that are involved to in our recording. So we did not get any other hosts. Generally, we also get this Google APIs and social media related, hosts. So what are the non-required hosts? We can just simply uncheck it and go on next. And since this is a very simple application, and we haven't done any login or authentication transactions, so there won't be any correlation to be done. So I'm just going to skip this step for now, and I'm going to use the recorded think time and click on finish. Let's look at these part. So if we look at the launch, so launch has a one main request, and there are other non-HTML resources. So we can see there is a slash css slash, so which is a style sheet css, and these four or total five, right? It says like JS. Under this JS there are these are the JS files, which is the JavaScript files. And here they have clearly mentioned on this img, which stands for image. Under image, these are the different resources that are part of image. And there are fonts can be of .otf or .ttf. These are of from the font side. And if we notice, right, there is one common aspect about these two requests. That is, it doesn't have any extension. There are no extension at all, which is ideally considered as a kind of a part of a main request, right? Since this slash 42 comes after all of these non-HTML resources, there is a chance that we could miss this request, but this is supposed to be a part of the main request. Let's look at what is happening in the Google Chrome dev tool as well. So I'm just going to refresh this page. So let's try to compare. So we can find most of this these non-HTML resources are also loaded here. May not be in the same order, but if we can see that there is a screen.css, so that is there. There is a jQuery min. There are counters, JS related files, and some of them did not got recorded. And so the other background images and all of these are also got recorded along with the final API call. And this is the year. So under this, so as we have looked at it from the Chrome tool, there is only one request got recorded from the year. And if we look at the date, if we remember, I have refreshed it. That is, I have reloaded it. So that is why the entire pages or the other calls got recorded here. Else, it's supposed to be only this slash. And from the math, again, there is only one request. Yes. So this is a normal way of recording it. That is the traditional way. That is by using a web browser. We are what we are trying to do is we are going to record a web page. So let's also look at how this the same thing can be created from the manual standpoint. So what I'll do is I'm going to create another user path. Okay, so I'll right click, create an user path, new user path. Okay, I'll just name it as manual. Okay, so from the manual script, what we are going to do is we are not going to use a web browser for recording, but we can create the script manually, and it is a little different here, right? So uh, how we can create is we can so I'm going to implement this into the actions container. I'll right click here, go to insert as child, and let's create a transaction, and let's name it as let's name it as year. Okay, so under this uh, HTTP request has to be created, but before that let's go here, let's click on year and go to this specific request. And if we see, to create a script manually, there are few things that are required. Okay, that is from the request, the endpoint URL or the URL, the request method, which is the method, and the set of headers, request headers. These are the things that are required to create a script manually. And this is not a script. This is just a single API call. Okay, so let's try to create this. So we can create, right click, insert as a child, and go to request, and in this request it says HTTP request. So as soon as we click on this, what we see is we can able to see that structure, how a manual script has to be created, how this manual request is in this format. So there is a method, and followed by there is a link, and below that there are set of mandatory headers, and there is a space here, and below that there is a body of this request. So let's use this Chrome tool to create the request. So I'm just copying the method, paste this method, and there has to be a space after the method, and there is a link, that is the endpoint URL. I'm going to paste that, and press enter. And let's go to the request headers. Here we can copy this entire part, just paste it, and then simply click on create. So this will create the request just like that. So where this could be useful, right? So when we are dealing with some of the resource intensive applications, there are chances that the tool might misses some of the request, or it fails to record. During those times we will be using taking a help of a network, you know uh, network recorder, like Fiddler or some other tool. And so instead of that, we can just make use of this Chrome tool, and then simply copy these values, the important one, and then simply create it. This can be created in any tools, be it load runner or Jmeter. The 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 method is just same, right? And so let's see, like, if we so before we try to run it, uh, let's try to run this part, that is the one that we have created earlier. I'm just saving this. So before we run this, we just have to go to the advanced parameters and change this to new user, right? So this will simulate a new user every time that this gets played. And I'm just clicking on start checking. Okay, this is running. Yes. So if we look at it, this is one of the API call. So from the response, I'm just trying to compare these both. So what in the right side we are seeing is the server response during recording, and here it says like gallons that one barrel of petroleum holds. And here in the left side, uh, this is the recorded response, or during the validation, right? So right side is during the recording, and this is during the validation. So the data has changed here, although the 42 remains the same thing. Is the angle in degrees, which is something, some facts about it, right? So if we go and check the math. So let's check on this. So right side is during the recording, left side is the during the validation. So here what we are seeing as the uh, 1294 is the number of four-dimensional polytypes with 8 vertices, so something that they have given. And the left side also we are seeing something. So definitely we can see that the it is working fine, and the data is getting changed. And we can also see there are time is also associated with that. So it's like 14:59, and there is like 15 after 10 minutes we are trying to run it. Yes. So this is the difference, and let's try it with the manual script. So I'm just rechecking. So handling as new user, and let's click on start. Okay, this has given a 200 response, which means a success. So let's try to see. Okay, so here this has worked, but if we see that there is no recorded content, right? So what it says is there is nothing to be compared, because we haven't used a web browser to record it, or something like that. There is only a data from the validation standpoint, right? Uh, so what we can also do is, so now we have this data as a response. We can use this as a baseline. So how we can use this, like we can right click this request and click on update recorded content. Okay, what this do is to overwrite the existing recorded content, because we do not have any recorded response. So if we click on this overwrite and then check on the response, now we have the same response in both the places. And if we try to uh, check once again, we could probably see different information in both the request. So if we go here, click on response, and this is the one which is like considered as a server response during recording, and this one is the during the validation. So we can clearly see there is a different fact that is about a certain year that it has shown. So we can start, we can use this right this application to understand, and in a simplified manner we can create a request, right, by using this Chrome tool. And so let's try one more. So we have created for year. So let me clear this and click on date. So there is some information on this. So if we look at it, right, so there is only path is getting changed, nothing major information as a part of this request is getting changed. And it is, of course, it's a very simple application. We do not expect the same thing with the real-time applications. It could be more complex, and what we have to take care is the information that we are passing. Even a simple space or a comma uh, could be a reason that it might not work. So to create for a date, the same method, right click on the actions, insert as a child, select the transaction and change the name. And for this again, right click, insert as a child, and this is a request and it's a HTTP request. Select this and let's go to the request method, get the link, followed by the link and the request headers. Yes, and just click on create. So let me also walk you guys through on this part. So here it defines the type of the request, right? So there are variety of types of request. One is using a manual definition. uh, the second one is the follow the redirect from the previous request. And the third part is the follow a link from a previous request. And finally is a form submission, right? So what is this follow a redirect from a previous request? So if we look at it, so let me also demonstrate that. So before I demonstrate, I open this again Chrome tool, and if I simply go and launch this, right, fb.com. So let's see what happens in the backend. So it says it is logged in some language. Okay, fine. So if we look at it, right, fb.com is not actually the actual request, although it is a part of the same website. What is happening is the status is 300 or 300 series, right. So this means it's a redirection, right. So from here it is redirecting from fb.com to facebook.com, which is the actual main document or the main request. And this must have come across many times that there would be some request which is not the main request. It would have redirected to some other request and then followed by the actual request, right. This can be also found in there are nowadays we are seeing for YouTube or many other links, there is a short links are happening, right. So this is the redirection, and this is its type, that is like follow the redirect from a previous request, which is ideally this comes in a pair, right. One request would be of a redirection, another one would be a follow-up of that redirection. And here what we see is the a method, right. So these are the various types of methods like get, post, head, put, delete, option, trace, custom. From the custom there are like many other methods like patch, and many things that are not a part of the main request can be also used. And the here we are seeing the numbers API and its port and followed by its path, and that is what we are seeing here, right here. The servers that is involved, if at all if we are using more than one server, we'll be able to see it right here in this location. So for now, as far as this project is concerned, we are only using this server. And in the parameters we are not sending any parameters. uh, there is uh, there is no need to, we are not posting any calls. So there is, it's ideally it's quite empty. And in the advanced, if we go to the advanced, we'll be also able to see the list of headers. There is this advanced settings, variable extractors. There is this is the actual recorded request which we have manually created, and its response, there is no response. If we can actually compare this, right. So if we go to this, there is already a response is present, and there is a request which is of a different nature. So there is cookies getting passed, and some it is so we have just taken the data from the Google Chrome. And ideally when we are dealing with these APIs, right, there is a high chance that we will not be able to see anything on the web browser, or there won't be any Swagger or any UI based applications. We'll just be given with a document, a API document with all of these information, like which that get, post, or the links or the headers, mandatory headers. That is all we've been provided, and this is how we can create uh, a script manually. So let's try run the same thing. So let me disable this and start checking. Okay, we have got the response. There is nothing here. So this is from the date. Let me do the update the recorded content. Let me, okay, these are got updated. I check on start checking. Yes, so this has updated. The information has changed right here. Okay. selecting design. So if we so these are the different ways, right, where how we can make use of this Google Chrome. I think it is the least used uh, by the performance testers, or maybe many of would have already been using. Um, but from the in the understanding perspective, or to make use of these creation of request, or even to validate some of them, whether how it is happening in the backend, right, this could be very helpful. And in some of the requirement, right, so what it happens is it is not mandatory to also check the non-HTML resources, right. In those cases, what we ideally do is to just select all of them and then simply disable it, and then we are just going to check on the main request. And just to ensure that these XHR calls are not missed, provided these are a part of the main request. Yeah. So I'd like to open the session for question and answers. So if you guys have any questions, please, yeah, share.
Hi, Naveen. Yes, I have one question. Can you open the compare request for any of the?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, do you want me to open it for the
Yeah, for
recorded?
the recorded, yes.
Okay. Just a moment, please.
Hmm.
Okay. So if we, okay, let's say I have opened it.
So I saw like some of them in the green color. So what? Before that,
Uh-huh. Yes, yes, absolutely. So just please give me a moment. Okay. So these are the these highlighted area, right? So the
hmm.
we can see right here, right, in the bottom, what it says is, in the gray means it's modified text, green means it's just added text. But ideally what happened here is just a displacement of these both the text, but as a whole it is the same. There is no major difference between these two requests. And this space is the modified block, which is what we are seeing right here. And
Hmm.
the blue one is the new line, which might not be appeared in. So if we see this, right, this blue part,
Hmm.
so these are the changes that is happening between these two different requests. But if we look at as a whole, there is no changes. Both of them are almost similar,
Okay.
part except this part. Yes.
So just the gray part is the modified, the new one
Yes.
got changed.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank
Gray
you.
is the only one changes happened. Yeah.
And one more question. When it says difference is 76%, but it's still the response code is 200. So which means different doesn't like kind of matter or
Uh-huh. Yes. So, so let me also share this information. So here, what we see is the timeline, or the time from the starting of this, execution, and these are the actions that are involved. And here are the response code assertions. We haven't applied any assertions, so there is no information here. And this difference, right, this difference is all about the content of the data. How much the difference between the current request and the previous recorded content. So if we try to, so let's say we are going to match this. So apart from this, there is no major changes. It is just the same, exact same code that we are
Hmm.
seeing in the response. Whereas here, if we see, There are some changes here. So if we look at as a whole, some has displaced. Even displaced content is also called, also considered as some changes happened in the response. So it is just showing the how much content that has been changed, or a difference from the recorded one and the during the validated one.
Mm-hmm.
That is all. That is the change, but response is the same. 200 means it's just a success. So here we can see there is 85 percentage almost. And if we compare it, this all considered as a changed. This green one and this block also changed. And this is the content of that specific response. This also considered as changed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, so this is the difference.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yes. So any other questions from the Chrome developer tool? Any clarification from here, like how we can make use of this tool, and how we can see
Uh,
from the dev tool? Yes.
Maybe could you please explain a little bit about others one, like the other tabs, which is headings, timing, preview, something.
Uh, which one? You mean
So
these ones?
yes, I saw like when you click on one of the requests in the Chrome Dev tool, let's say.
Okay.
So if you click one of them, there
Okay.
is
Yes.
a
Oh,
response
all
tab.
right.
Yes, this one.
Okay, fine. Sure. So here, what we are seeing is the actual headers. I mean, this is already shared. Uh, so preview is just gives a data without, let's say, like CSS, or without the image. So if we here, what we are seeing here, right? There is an actual image, right? But that is just not loaded. That
Mm-hmm.
is, the preview is only of the main HTML document. So the direct document is being shown here in this specific preview tab. Response is just the complete response of this page. These are the different how the links are created, and it's just a bunch of information that we can see here. Generally it is just filled with a lot of links. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And here what we see is mm, the timeline, right? So here we can see like started at 36 ms, this has created. And these are the time, or kind of a waterfall kind of thing, right? So how, when it has started, and like the complete information on. So before it hits the ttfb, that is like time to first byte.
Mm-hmm.
There are other like handshake and a few other things that are happening in the backend. So we can see the information on that also, and this is only for this specific request. And for each request we'll be able to see the information on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is a cookies. And this generally these cookies are also sometimes is required, but from the tool standpoint, these are handled automatically. We do not need to explicitly do uh, any activities or any actions from the cookies. Generally it is handled uh, by itself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And also here what we see is um, the waterfall, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this gives a information on which request gets loaded first. And so let me open up this. You can see, yes. So as soon as we opened up, we loaded the Google Chrome, sorry, Google website. The entire till here, everything almost loaded at the same time. And
Mm-hmm.
for each stroke, I mean, we have given some time, and then we have entered for each stroke. So there is a uh, yeah, the, when it has loaded, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing can be seen here as well. So I'll just yes, this looks much better from the waterfall standpoint. So this is the first request that gets loaded, and followed by a series of requests, which almost so till here it was in the similar timeline, and further there is again another series of requests and its corresponding responses also getting loaded. So the status code, type, I've already explained,
Mm-hmm.
initiator, how it is, the size of this specific request, and the time that it took. Yes, somebody wants to ask something. And here we can also filter these data, right? So if I just click on this, right, so it just gives only the etc calls. These are the JS calls, CSS, images. There are no media. There could be fonts. Yes, these are the three fonts that we have already seen. Document is the main request. These are the other uh, types.
Okay.
Yes. So this is a very good tool, I would say, which is, I feel, very less used, or maybe we haven't taken the complete advantage of Chrome dev tool, but it's a very good uh, quick go to tool for to look at something, what's happening in the back end of any websites. You can simply load what's happening with Facebook or any other web pages. Right. Yes. So any other questions? Let me look at if anybody
Hello,
has
hello, sir.
put it up. Yes.
Sir, how to use assertion in it? Assertion.
Assertion. Okay.
Yes, sir.
uh, so you want me to share? Yes, definitely. mm, so let's look at this 4.2. Let's try to apply an assertion. So we can go here and go to this link, or click on this button, validation. Okay, this brings up the validation. Okay, so there are three types of validations that can be applied here, right? One is on uh, the web page, how fast it can load. So basically we can uh, give an assertion settings on based on its load time, right? So for example, I can give this as like 200 ms or maybe 500 ms, something like that, so that I can ensure that this specific request has loaded within that specific time. Or so this is one type of assertion, that is, this is one. And next what we have is the content length, right? Content length is on the size of the page. Excuse me. So size of the page defines, we are going to determine how big the page, or this is ideally is used during downloading of any image or any files. Probably we must have come across on any workflows which has some kind of download action where it downloads some file, right? So during those times, right, it is best we take advantage of this content length, which determines the size of the page. So if it is 10 MB something, we can probably use these conditional statements, right? It should be greater than 10 MB, and then we have to convert the megabytes into bytes and then give that value right here, right? So if we look at it, a greater than and lower than can be selected together, which gives a which is used to give a range between like for example, let's say excuse me. So let's say I'm going to give this like greater than 50, and this should be lower than 70. So this has given a, so I have defined a range for this specific web page, although I know this is going to be like very less, like 63 bytes. Okay. And here finally what we have is the most used assertion settings, which is the content. So we can just add a new assertion by clicking on this, and on whose response select on this part, and then contains, and by clicking on this button, a text picker, this just brings up the response of this specific page. Okay. Or let me I'll cancel this. For now I will apply a content length on this, and then apply response content on this. So we can see there is a huge the content length is bigger here, so we can expect something more in the response. So yes, so I can select. So this comes handy. This is the response of this specific page. I can select, for example, I can use this numbers API as my content. So I can simply click on pick selected and click OK. So now I have applied assertion. It is as simple as that. Okay, I'll just go ahead and click on start checking. So here it says like 1 out of 1 assertion is succeeded, and there is an assertion tab. For succeeded one, we do not see any information, but let's see on this. So here what it says is the response size was 36, was not greater than 50, right? So this has our condition has failed, and there is one more assertion that we have implemented in this. So let's go here. Okay, so these are the two. So one condition that got passed, which is it is lower than 70, but it is not greater than 50, right? So I can just remove this, and if I also give an unrealistic load time, for example 5 ms, so if I just replay once again, this is going to throw an error, and these errors are assertion errors. Ideally we can also ignore such assertion errors. So see here, you can. So again, 0 out of 1 got succeeded. The response duration was 277, was longer than 5. For the ones that gets passed, we do not see anything. For the ones that gets failed, we will be seeing some information. Yes, so that's the assertions, and that's how we can make use of how to validate these requests.
Naveen, I have one question. So this tool, NeoLoad, if we compare it to the Jmeter, what is the advantage?
uh, Sorry, you
Like
want to
if we
compare?
like
Yeah.
NeoLoad with Jmeter, so what is like any extra thing the NeoLoad, the Jmeter can't handle?
Um, yes. So if we look at NeoLoad as a performance testing tool, um, it is really intuitive, and what we can So for example, this is like 60 to 70% faster in terms of developing a script. And from the product standpoint, it has a very good integration between many other APMs and monitors. And uh, yeah, it is quite simple and easy. At the same time, for a newcomers, right, it is very useful to learn about a variety of performance testing concepts, right? Which could be little ambiguous from the Jmeter, but ideally both of them are has its own pros and cons. And uh, and so I'd like to show something, also, like some of the so yes. So if we look at this project, so we have done a variety of exercises, very interesting aspects, and which we had previously worked on, right? So these are the various actions that are available from the NeoLoad side. uh, and we have worked on different aspects. So there is, like, for example, NeoLoad has a very good correlation and framework rules. And uh, and it is quite yeah, quicker, as I said, right, at least 60% faster. And these are the varieties of scripts that we had created in the previous sessions. So this is like, auto correlation, and they're like auto configuration, like very neoload specific features are really nice, that are not available on Jmeter. Mm, but if at all, if we are just going ahead with the open source, I think Jmeter is best. Um, but yeah, again, if it depends on the project budget and various other things as well.
Okay.
Yes. So it doesn't. So it's not like even these things are also available in Jmeter, like looping or while, or implementing a JavaScript code, something like this, right? Where we can. So this is a. Uh, a script that what we had created, and what we are trying to do is we are correlating some values, and then we are trying to write that value into a file, and we are exporting it. Even these things also can be done in Jmeter. It is just that it is quite easy, and the UI looks clean, and it is easy to understand. Yeah, and it is very very nice for a starter, for a beginner to learn. Apart from that, both are really nice tools. So these are like, population, or this is like kind of a workload distribution. So if we want to learn about workload distribution, this is the best area, right? And there is a monitors, where we can add monitors, and see like what are the counters that are associated with that. These are not available with the Jmeter. Just for learning purpose, it is very nice. And if we look at these part, right, that is like, there are variety of different types of performance tests are there, and we can create all of them, right? We can create by scenarios, and uh, like, say for example, capacity, and we have created um, something like this, uh, right? It does, this also can be created. So almost everything can be done. Only thing is, it is easier and easy to understand, and something like this. And then we have these results, right? So yes, so we are also coming up with another batch for NeoLoad, which will be starting, I think, by tomorrow. So what we will be doing is, like, we are going to create a all of these scripts. We are going to look at variety uh, of exercises. It's quite interesting. And see, even for now, like um, many of them does not clearly understand about rendezvous, right? Like why it is being used, and if anybody has used RPT, probably it is the sync point or assembly point like this, right? So we are going to create these many scripts, and these are the different populations that we'll be working on, and it is a good good experience, and then we'll be going on with the varieties of executions, and then we'll be looking at these results, comparing it. We'll be looking at various aspects about NeoLoad. But yes, to answer that question, both of them are decent tools. And since Tricentis has acquired, I could see there is a lot of companies are moving away from Loadrunner and adopting NeoLoad. Maybe it's just their market share, or the penetration that they have with the other Tricentis based tools, right? Like task
Mm-hmm.
and other test complete. So I would say I can see that, right, more and more new load is being adopted, especially in insurance, healthcare, banking and finance sectors, and some other part that are being hugely adopted. Yes, we can see like some new load probably would take a bigger share compared to load runner. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yes. So, any other questions that we had learned today? So, let me check on the chat side if so. Why should we consider? Girish says, why should we consider this tool in comparison with low runner? Okay. Um so, if we look at to answer that question, right, load runner has a bigger learning curve, right? Load runner has their own functions, their own set of operations, and it is quite heavy with different components like viewgen, results, analysis. Sorry, yeah, analysis and controller, everything like in a separate part, and we have to invest a lot of time, and we have to put certain effort to learn and understand, and and after we record and something, right, it is full of code, right? And we initially we won't understand anything, like what is really happening, and we also have to learn to do a correlation, or to do a validation or checkpoint. Load runner based functions we would need to learn, and then try to implement it. And so, as I said, at least the learning curve is quite more over there compared to NeoLoad. It's quite less
Sir,
here. It's
hello.
codeless design. Yes.
Sir, in API testing field, how much new load is used currently? Because Postman is developer also using Postman, and the tester part also using Postman. But new load,
Hmm.
how much scope is in new load API tester?
Yes. Postman is used for more from the functional standpoint, right? It is Postman is uh, not built for a performance testing, whereas NeoLoad is itself a performance testing tool, and from the API standpoint, Postman is only fit for checking on the functionality part. It doesn't have any major function features besides that, whereas neolode we can use it for the actual performance execution by using from, like, interface testing or API or web services testing. under load. So that's the difference between the Postman and NeoLoad.
And so one difference between get and post. Get means all the result we got from the all records, and post mean creates some content on the website. Both are we can do from the new load. In post method, what response will come?
So as you said, right, so we are going to create something. So the post method is like that, right, where we are sending some data to the server, and we are trying to change, for example, like we are trying to log in to a web page, or we are trying to push some data into the server. um, so after pushing the data, definitely we'll be having some response. Maybe it could be as simple as like 200 passed, or maybe the data is created or something like that. Maybe soon in another a session, I'd probably consider taking a session which will explain the difference between the get and post, and I can probably show a post. Only thing with post is it would take more time, because there are parameters are involved, and there are varieties of things are involved. So this time is too less to do it. Maybe we can have a continuation session of this one to have a short comparison between a get and post, and maybe there are other uh, methods as well, like delete, all of those things can definitely.
Means a post takes a large time or less time.
From the timing or the response standpoint, the creation will take time. Like the manual creation of those requests would take some time, and then I need certain explanation to
Which
do
one is
that.
the best, get or post?
Sorry.
So which one is the best in get or post?
There is no no. I mean, from the requirement standpoint, it is not like we cannot define between the get is best or post is best. But if we have a requirement to create, let's say, like 2 get or 4 post or something like that, we have to do that. There is I mean, we cannot really compare both of them.
Okay,
It is based on the requirement. Yes.
thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
How easy uh, how easy is it in NeoLoad to do a API testing, which includes uploading a file or downloading a file?
It is quite simple. Like, so if we look at this, right. Um, so when we are uploading something, there is going to be few things are involved. One is we are going to define on the content, which whether is it what type of content that we are sending. Ideally, if it is a RESTful service, it is supposed to be of application JSON, and we have to try to implement the file into the body of the request, and then we can probably send it. But it could be a little challenging from the creation perspective. Maybe so when I say challenging, right, when there is a lot of parameters are involved, and definitely if we are trying to post a image or something, there is going to be an authorization involved. So we have to try to understand like how this authorization works, how we can create those authentication keys, maybe what is the expiration time of that. So these are the parts that we would need to understand before we try to create this request and then push it to the server. But it is fairly simple, um, from the post perspective. Yes.
Okay, Naveen. Because in Jmeter we have that multi-part or form action, right? So do we need any separate plugin here? That's why I asked this question. To
Uh,
upload a file,
mm,
we need a
no.
separate.
So here, if we, so for example, I'm just simply showing this. So we can just simply go to this form and we can change this to a multi-part form, right? So once we change this, so whatever the parameters or the content that we are looking for can be created using this. So I can we can create by clicking on this plus button. I can give this value. If it is a simple uh, you know string that we are passing, we can do that, or we can just select this, change this into a file. We can source this file here by selecting the file and then providing the name, the content type of that specific file, which character and its encoding, and so on and so forth. I hope that answered your question.
Thanks, Nani.
Yes, you're welcome. So any other questions? Let me once again check on the chat box if anybody. Yes, I don't see. So thank you very much, everyone. So definitely, as I said, this is a very expensive time, Sunday evening. I know. So thank you for joining. Thanks for um, I hope everyone has made use of this session. We will be having more such sessions in future.
Yeah, interesting. Naveen, one last question. Like
Yes.
in Jmeter, we can integrate Groovy code, bean shell scripting, etc. Right? Do we have
Uh-huh.
any such options here?
Yes, we have JavaScript, okay, and NeoLoad is largely limited only with the JavaScript. I mean, NeoLoad does not have Groovy code or the other types of programming implementation. But majority of the functionalities what we are expecting can be handled without the code, without any implementation of the custom code. But if at all, if it is required, as I explained, like we have to write something to a file and we have to do some file operations or string operations or something that is beyond the tools features and capabilities, also can be done using JavaScript itself. uh, so I think, yeah,
Oh,
this is a very good language to do it, and ideally
okay.
our requirement can be resolved by using this.
Okay, Naveen. Naveen, apart from this NeoLoad original site, that is NeoLoad site, any other
Mhm.
site is good for learning NeoLoad advanced concepts?
Um, you
Any
mean
blogs or yeah?
any blogs? I think Neotis documentation is the best part. Majority of them has they have you know uh, somewhat
Okay.
decently explained, uh, but I don't think. No, that's the challenge that even I faced with NeoLoad, right? That I don't see any content much created for NeoLoad or something like that. Maybe that is also has encouraged me to create something and make it available to the larger public. Yeah,
Yeah, it's great initiative, Naveen. Thanks for explaining this.
thank you very much. Thanks. Thanks for the motivation.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Naveen.
thank you all. Thanks for joining. So we will share soon the
Hello,
upcoming
sir.
sessions.
Hello, sir. One thing
Hmm.
I want. Sir, I
Yes.
have taken your courses of recorded videos, but in that
Uh-huh.
parameterization and correlation parts, the URL has changed. So I am not getting any errors for result for taking the correlation part of the amortization part. So any
Yes,
way,
so I think that that application is no longer available. Unfortunate. That
yes, sir.
that was having a very good exit algorithms, and
Yes,
it has a very strict it's not very loosely packed. It is like too tightly packed,
any
so
other
that
site which are available. If
mm,
you from tomorrow session you will take the pet stock site or any other site for giving example.
for now we are only left with the same site. We do not have any other web page which does not let us proceed. Um, Let me
Okay, sir.
check. So even I'm in the hunt of that similar application,
Yes,
but let's see. Definitely, if I find, definitely I would share it with you.
okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for joining. Have a I think, yeah, weekend is almost over. Thanks for joining.
Thanks.
Nice.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Naveen.